Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Magnates Africa Summit 2024. My name is Despina, and I will be your host for this couple of days. To kick off the speaker sessions, I am happy to announce the first panel discussion, Industry Insight, Business Growth in Africa and Beyond. This session will explore the lucrative opportunities and key industry insights of the African market from local industry leaders. Please give a warm welcome to our moderator, Andrea Badiola Mateos, Chief Commercial Officer at Finance Magnates Group, who will introduce her panel. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Hello? Okay, now it's on. Thank you, Despina. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the first panel of our second edition of the Finance Magnates Africa Summit. We are so glad to be here for a second year in a row. We are doing all the events around the world, and Africa has proven to be a very thriving region. So we decided to do it one more time because look at all of you. Thank you so much for joining us in this panel, to all of our panelists today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves very briefly because nobody can do it better than yourselves. So, Linton, maybe we can start with you.
Hello. Okay, so mine's on. So, my name's Linton White. I've been in the brokerage game for the better part of sort of 14 years, financial services as well, and currently the regional head for ATFX, having started in January and sort of spearheading the expansion into Africa as well.
Thank you.
Hi guys, hope you're doing well. My name is Paul Margarites. I'm the Regional Commercial Director for Exness. I look after Sub-Saharan Africa for our group. It might be quite surprising to you, but I'm older than I look. I've been around financial markets since 1998. I've worked as a trader for both institutions on the buy side and the sell side, and I'm now looking after Exness and have been doing so since 2019. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Paul.
Hi, Andrea, thank you for giving us this chance to introduce ourselves. Hi everyone, my name is Alex. I am the regional manager of HFM for the Southern African region, and you'll get to know me more as we speak.
Thanks, Alex. Danny?
Hi everyone. Working? Yeah, it's working. My name is Danny Mawas. I'm the CEO of Finalto. So I pretty much oversee the whole African region for the Finalto brand. So we are a prime brokerage. We provide liquidity solution and trading services to the likes of professional traders, asset managers, hedge fund managers, brokerages, banks, and even stock exchanges. So I've been in this industry for now 15 years. I have a European background. I came in South Africa, I think it was back in 2016, and from there moved my way up. So yeah, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Amar?
Hi everybody, my name is Amar Ramit. I'm the CEO of TD Markets. Quite honored to share stage here with some Titan brands because we're an African-born brokerage and we're growing quite largely into the African region. Really stand by our core values. I've been in this industry for roughly about 2 decades now, so sat on both sides of the desk, initially as a trader, and decided to start offering a very good brokerage product for traders out there.
Thank you, Amar. So as you all can see, we have very, very high caliber speaker with us today. So their insights are priceless. I hope you're going to get very good information out of it. And we're going to have a very short Q&A at the end. I'm not sure if we will be able to take more than 1 or 2 questions, but we'll get to it. So let's open the floor a little bit by discussing about the demographics of the African region. What is the age currently? What are the FTDs? Is there differences between the sub-regions? I think you're all placed in a very good position to be able to give a very good overview of the market. So who wants to go first?
Sure, so I'll go first. So I think the African market is quite dynamic and it's diversified in a lot of ways. Especially from sort of the regulatory side, we have regulatory entities that are very well established, like South Africa and probably Kenya as well. And then we have entities that are still really in the development phase of their regulatory compliance. And I think that obviously plays a big role in terms of accessibility and also the ability to take part in the products that we offer. The median age that we have at the moment for traders in Africa is around the 20-year mark. So it's really, really young. And if you compare that to other regions and other areas, you're looking at quite a big sort of age gap between the two. And I think that in itself sort of, presents challenges from a demographic perspective, but at the same time, there's also a world of opportunity there. The youngsters and people who are willing to learn, and I think with the right sort of education in place and the right sort of support, that closes that demographic gap a little bit more.
Thank you, Linton. Alex?
So, Andrea, Elon Musk had famously said that population decline is the greatest danger to any civilization, even more than global warming. Okay, we've seen Africa growing in the last 100 years tenfold in terms of population. The UN predicts that by 2050, Africa will have a population of 2.5 billion people. As you understand, this is far greater. The rate of increase is far greater than any other continent. So we do have, as Linton said, more young traders just because we have more young people. And that's actually the most powerful tool in Africa right now. However, having said that, Africa, unfortunately, still remains the continent with the lowest GDP per capita. What does this mean? That Africans earn less than their European, American, and other counterparts. So it's obvious that the FTD would also be lower because of the lower GDP per capita. Now, we do know that there is an overpopulation of brokers here, right? So we see the client journey. Client sees someone on social media, he follows them, he learns about financial trading, he goes with a broker, he then changes brokers and then changes again until they find the right place. So this is actually the reason that we have higher churn rates than other regions. South Africa specifically has an overpopulation of brokers, and people have choices, which is a very good thing if you ask me.
Yeah, just to pick up on that a little bit. So agree with exactly what the guys have said. In terms of the churn, education is not only about learning how to trade. It's also about learning about financial markets. It's being able to do a proper comparison from one broker to the next. So it also makes sense that part of the trading journey is also checking out different brokers and looking at different offerings. Because we're all kind of in the same industry, but ultimately there's differences in kind of how we offer our services. So yeah, young population, as the guys have said, accessibility is more and more available to people all throughout the continent. I go to some very remote parts of Africa, and it's quite interesting to see, how high the demand is, and the knowledge level is not bad at all. People are learning about it. There's a lot of education out there that's freely available, and there's a desire and a will to be part of this, to be a part of this international financial community. So it's a really good continent to work on. I really enjoy it.
So, Amar?
Again, like Paul says, I agree quite largely with a lot of what's being said. But if you look at the African demographic, as much as it might be a younger client base, the hunger for financial literacy exists very largely, and it's not unique to any of the African countries. It's unique to the continent. You'd find more often than not, people are spending exorbitant amounts of money on actual education. But at the same time, what's important, like what Paul says, is understanding that the education is not just how do I trade, but understanding all of the dynamics that go behind it. I might be touching on a whole other matter altogether, but I do feel there's quite a large regulatory push towards the increase of the correct financial literacy and the correct practice, so that the industry itself settles where there is a large demand, but settles in the correct manner. It's very, very important that I think that the client market at large is fed the correct information at the outset. In South Africa specifically, there's been quite a dynamic shift over the last 5 years, where I think there's a lot more credibility being put out to people. People are starting to understand a little bit more about what trading really means for them. And again, touching on the lower GDP, many clients are starting to understand that a supplemented income can exist with trading. So even at a young age, you could probably still be in university. You could subsidize your tuition fees at a small percentage purely from trading. Outside of looking at it as a way to, I suppose, hopefully create yourself as the next Elon Musk.
Following up on some things that you have all said, we're talking about education and how hungry the continent is for education, but does that remind you of maybe the 90s or the 2000s in Europe potentially? Is it something that we have just gone through in the APAC region and is now, do you see if that's where it's going? Does it remind you of that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially coming from my background where I spent so many years back in France, the trend that we are seeing now in South Africa is exactly the same that we were seeing like in the 2000s, where it's just not enough anymore to just follow trader A or trader B. People who really want to understand why this trader is buying this or selling that, and why is they trading this one specific product, and so on and so forth. Clients, traders generally speaking, especially in South Africa, are so eager to learn now. And actually, the way that I see it is like, yes, of course, education and financial literacy is something very important for a broker to bring, and hopefully for free to their clients. But on top of that, traders actually want quality content. Because you can find so many free content now on internet, watching YouTube and so on and so forth. But actually, following a course and paying for a course that will hopefully bring you like a hedge on the market, it's something quite rare to find. And this kind of trend is only started in South Africa, when back in Europe, the market is way more mature, I would say. But it's actually a good thing. It's a good thing to see so many traders so eager to learn, because it shows maturity in the market now. People are not just here, traders are not just here to flip their account. They're actually looking to generate a second stream of income, and that bring, again, legitimacy on the online trading industry in South Africa.
And linking it to the FTDs that you have mentioned as well. So Alex, you were touching on the reason that the FTDs might be lower is GDP related, etc. But do you think it's also related to the fact that the demographic is a much younger age? So a trader that, is just joining the markets when they're in their 40s, for example, they would have a much higher FTD than somebody that is in their 20s. From what Linton, you were saying, that's the age average in Africa in general. And do you feel there is a gap, a difference in FTDs between different countries within the African region?
So if you look at your average FTDs, right? And again, I'm gonna make a quick comparison, just like in terms of, let's just look at the middle class, the South African middle class versus, let's say, your UK or French middle class. Your South African middle class is going to be so an individual coming from the per se middle class will be earning something around $1,200 a month, right? Whereas in the UK or France, it's going to be around 2,000. So, of course, by default, your FTD is going to be much lower in South Africa versus let's say France or UK.
Right, but within Africa as a continent, different countries.
So then if you start, going more granular and you look at all of the other, you look at the African countries, generally speaking, your South African and Kenyan FTD would be much higher than some other part of the world. And that's again directly linked to the middle class that is growing in South Africa versus some other African countries that is a little bit struggling.
Right. Alex, since I looped you in the conversation at the beginning.
Thank you. So, in my mind, it's very simple, guys. It's very simple. By the way, for our audience, FTD is first time deposit, for the people who don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
You might be wondering, I know how it feels. Sometimes I wonder myself. So, my point is, it's two things, guys, and it's been mentioned here. Number one, education. Number two, regulation. What do I mean by that? The more people learn about online trading, the more online trading becomes a more mainstream thing. You have younger people entering. Obviously, these people didn't have a chance to go out and produce a high income yet. Hence, the average FTD, which is taking everyone's FTD divided by the number of people, makes sense to be lower. Now, it's higher in South Africa. Why? Not just because South Africa has a higher GDP per capita compared to other African countries. It's not just that. It's also regulation. And regulation is important because it gives legitimacy and it allows for bigger players to be able to enter the market with no fear of losing money, getting scammed, and so on and so forth.
Trust, yeah.
Exactly. It's all about trust and it's all about education.
Right. Amar?
Yeah, I think it's also segmentation of how you approach the market. We see this through many different African countries. I mean, we've recently expanded quite impressively with Zambian clients, understanding that the segmentation of how you market and what you market to them would yield the result on an FTD that you can expect to see. As an example, if you're marketing towards a client base, and you can do so much of this now, I think there's probably another point, but with the amount of fintech that exists and the marketing mediums that we have available to us in the digital space, you can target a specific audience quite largely. But the one interesting fact about Africa is that it's also got the most number of countries with the largest income gaps. So you would find, at least a large portion of people within your higher living standard measures, so LSM or income groups, and an equally matching level of them at a much lower income level. It really depends on how you want your product to appeal to specific people and exactly what you are saying to those people. So I think it's not an easy comparison to compare it across to a European market which is more mature in the industry, or even some of the Asian markets which have been quite active in the industry for a very long time. I think South Africa or Africa is very comparable to LATAM as an example.
Okay. Paul, I saw that you wanted to speak before.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one point. I mean, most of it's been covered, but it's two issues. It's disposable income, which is the first one, on the mass retail basis. But then again, it's about the trust, and that's part of the sort of collective psyche of a country. So the longer it goes on for, when it becomes a second generation, when your father's been invested in financial markets, you learn about it from them, and your second generation, all of a sudden you have that comfort and that trust. So within the African context, there are differences between, let's say, South Africa, which is older, which dates back to late 2009, 2010, to maybe somewhere more remote, West Africa, where it's much newer. So it's more part of the collective psyche here. Even if someone that's coming in as a new trader will probably know people that are maybe a generation older or 10 years older that's already involved in the market. So that makes a difference. Ultimately, it's going to grow. It's going to grow with the numbers that we spoke about. Africa is growing. Mobile access is booming. So, it'll be interesting to see over the next 10, 20 years how that evolves in these different countries, and people gain the trust and they gain hopefully some more disposable income as well.
Speaking of evolution and mobile adoption, what are the current challenges that you are facing as brokers leader in the Africa region with the region itself? Because if we were to talk about challenges 10 years ago, it's definitely not the same as today. And like you just mentioned, there has been a big mobile adoption. So has the challenge of expanding into the market or being present in the market change? Is it pretty much the same? What is most common now? Linton.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the African market as a whole, there's, over the last 10 years, let's say, the sort of digital and mobile adoption has really increased, as you say. And with that, obviously, access to these type of products. And I think that is obviously part of the challenge is there's an increasing market, there's an increasing hunger for these products, but is there enough sort of knowledge going out? So what I mean by that is we have to develop and create educational sort of initiatives, and I'm touching on the point that I mentioned earlier again, especially because of the adoption on the mobile side and the adoption of the acceptance of sort of digital and growing, and the hunger of sort of financial literacy. I think that it's vital for us to have these initiatives and to create the education to make sure that the individuals who are hungry for financial literacy and for these products have access to them in a way that can benefit them and doesn't just provide sort of a platform to just trade on without the knowledge. One of the things that we didn't mention in the last question that I thought was quite important, and I'll bring it in here, is I think that the product offering itself is also a very, very key fundamental part of how we approach the African market as a whole. Are you providing a product that is more aimed at sort of high turnover, high churn rate product, or are you aiming at something that is a little bit more user-friendly and something that is aimed at retention, something that's aimed at retaining your clients? And I think those are the challenges. We've got to find the happy medium between those points to see, are we offering the right product firstly? And secondly, are we offering the people who want our products the education to be able to deal in those products effectively and in a way that benefits them?
Danny?
And yeah, so just to follow up on what Linton was saying just now, just remember that most of these trading platform has been developed for so many years on desktop. So it was made for computers. I mean, it was computer-based pretty much. Now, Africa, like again, what Linton was explaining to us, it's only about mobile platform. So if tomorrow you are setting a trading platform and that's your core business, your biggest challenge will be to ensure that this trading platform is mobile friendly and user friendly, because it can be mobile friendly, but maybe it's a headache to use on an app and so on and so forth. And the second thing is, for sure, financial literacy, because, and I guess that's what Linton was touching just now, is that most of our clients, most of our traders they are trading on the go. They don't have time to sit behind a screen and analyze really the market for 2 or 3 hours and find the perfect entry point and so on and so forth. I think that you need to be able to provide the mobile-friendly platform that comes with all of the right charting tools and so on and so forth, but at the same time also provide some free educational programs that you can give to your traders so that hopefully they can get better, understand better the financial markets, and eventually, be able to be profitable in the long run.
And cues, right? Like a feed of cues of when to enter, like this is happening now.
Of course.
Amar?
I think it's always seen as a perception like Africa has lack of internet access. I mean, we've had the likes of Facebook drones and Google access points. We have Starlink, all trying to serve Africa with internet access. But I live in Germany, and ironically, internet access in South Africa is significantly better. But I think what needs to be looked at is not the challenge of what technology is accessible, but like Danny says, I suppose, how we make what our product is available via the relevant technology that the market has access to. So if your traders are on a mobile phone, your clients are on a mobile phone, yes, of course, we all have the MetaTrader option and so on mobile, but are you giving them access to all of your product on mobile? Everybody wants to know about a new app. Everybody, wants to be able to access, for example, a live classroom from their phone, because many clients won't even have the time to sit in front of a laptop, or your only access point as a desktop computer or laptop might be at work. So whatever you do, and quite frankly, with smartphones these days, I actually don't have one with me, there's nothing I can't do there that I can do on a computer. So the reality is, I don't think it's a challenge as an African challenge of technology, but more so as whether it's appropriate or whether we appropriately offer the right products on the right technology medium.
Thank you. Alex, and then Paul.
Can I agree and disagree with some of the things that have been said? Because I agree that South Africa has good internet access. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's go to Zimbabwe. Let's go to Zambia. Which internet access? What infrastructure? Guys, I've seen this so many times. Back in headquarters, let's build an app. Oh, look how cool this app looks on iPhone 15. Which iPhone 15? The average African person in Zimbabwe does not have an iPhone 15. They have an old Android phone, and your app creates problems to them that you've never seen in your life. Your developers back in HQ, they say, what is this? I've never seen that. We have to adapt. It's our job to see the market, listen to the market, and work both with the current infrastructure that we have, but also with future, with what's coming. Because like South Africa was 7 years ago, might be the situation in Botswana, or Zimbabwe, or Zambia. They will evolve. Stable internet will come. Good mobile devices will come. It's all about who's better prepared to capture this market now, and they will follow you when you're there. However, challenges bring opportunities as well. For instance, we see an increase in demand for, personally, we as HFM, we've seen a great increase on demand of automated trading. With the proliferation of AI, now everyone wants automated solutions. We have to hear and adapt our technologies for these new things that are coming. For instance, we offer a free VPS subscription to all of our HFM clients, and we reduced the requirements so we can have as many clients as possible because we saw a need and a niche there.
Thanks. Paul?
Yeah, good point. From Exness's perspective, we look at Africa. In order to do well in this continent, we look at a twofold sort of procedure. It's a global leader and it's a local hero. So from the global leader perspective, we've got to be innovative. And we've got to be innovative in products, we've got to be innovative in the technology that we offer to people, regardless of what they're using, Android or what version of an iPhone they have. We need to have a very solid product that kind of works across the continent. But that's not enough, because the fact that everyone around Africa has access to the same pricing is good, it's a positive, but there's also sort of local nuances that we have to take account of. If we were developing, let's say, a country in Asia that's got a population of 1 billion people, it's a much easier proposition than developing Africa. Even though you've got another 1 billion people in sub-Saharan Africa, you've got different countries, you've got different payment methods, you've got a multitude of languages, it's relatively difficult to get around. So we've got to be that local hero as well. We've got to spend time in the local countries, we've got to have people and partners on the ground who we work with, and we've actually got to become involved in community-based projects as well. So I'm doing this because I'm segueing in one of our guys. We've got our UCT, one of our graduates who we're sponsoring, sitting here in the audience. Tato, if you're here, he's doing his master's in applied mathematics, and I'm going to say that he's probably the cleverest guy in the room. So these kind of, being locally based, not only providing a product and support in the local language, but also importantly being a part of the local place is very important in Africa.
Thank you, Paul. I was actually going to say, I was very surprised when you started Linton and then Danny continued. And the more I was hearing you guys, I was saying, damn, nobody's talking about internet infrastructure. A year ago, exactly a year ago, when we were doing FMAS, the first here, the main topic was access to the internet, electricity shutdowns, it was infrastructure challenges mostly. Today, you were all talking about content, product, which is very interesting for me as Finance Magnates and Forex Live. We have seen on both, but particularly Forex Live because it's the retail side of it, a huge growth in Africa countries' access to the platform. For mobile, of course, I think that's a given. But South Africa in particular, huge growth. And I think it lines up with the fact that, so it's becoming less of an issue, less of a challenge, the access to internet technology. I am with Alex in saying that in other countries in Africa there is bigger challenges because we don't see that kind of growth. But South Africa seems to be particularly catching up and being up to speed in infrastructure, so it's interesting. And localization and the challenge of languages also seems to be a very important point in Africa. It's a huge continent. Let's move a little bit to regulation. So in Africa there is different regulatory bodies, and South Africa has the one. We have the regulator coming for speech as well. So what are the main insights and takeaways that you have, and how do you see the trend going forward? Danny, I see you're very eager.
It's my stuff. No, I strongly believe that the local authorities are here to once again legitimize the online trading industry. just with this, I mean, we have been seeing it like a couple of years ago. They introduced this new ODP regulatory regime, right? And to me, once again, it's actually like, it's a commitment from the local authorities that they want to stabilize this online trading industry and make it more legit, which indirectly actually contributed to the growth of the online trading industry, right? Because people now, let's say like a new trader looking to deposit funds with HFM or any of us today, they know for a fact that there is a regulatory framework in place ensuring that it's safe. And on top of that, you have, some additional, regulations such as your POPI Act that ensure privacy and, for instance, your Consumer Protection Act, that will ensure also good business practices. So, to me, the local authorities, or let's say the regulation ensuring oversight of the financial markets and its participants are actually a great thing, and it's actually, we should all embrace it, and we are all embracing it because we know for a fact that it helps us to sell even more and to attract even more people on our platform. So yes, I mean, once again, I personally believe that they are doing the right thing. In terms of relationship, I personally believe that South Africa is business friendly. I mean, it's very often that the FFCA will come to you and inquire about something. They will ask for your insight, they will ask for some intel, and vice versa. So it's like a two-way relationship. So like if tomorrow you want to inquire about a very specific topic, the FFCA will help you. Or at least they will give you their opinion, and then based on that, of course, you have to adjust, right? But it's much better to, I can say, as a financial institution, it's much better to operate in that kind of market than, for instance, facing, like some local authorities coming up with new regulation, implementing and enforcing new regulation without even discussing it with key local players, And once again, this, according to me, is very encouraging, and which makes, I believe, all life, all daily life and all operation very sustainable. And, it helps us to project ourselves in the future and help us also to come up with more incentive and more investment, for the South African but African market.
Thank you, Danny. Amar?
Okay, so this is an interesting topic, right? And I think I'm going to start it with, and I think I'll quote Caroline De Silva. She used to head up the FISCA some time ago, but she said it's excellent that, and this was at the Intergovernmental FinTech Working Group when crypto became quite a hot topic. But she says it's excellent that we have the regulations in place, but we cannot police everything all of the time. So there's a few things that are important when it comes to regulations and regulators. I think the first thing is, most importantly, people should deploy a little bit of thought into things that they are being attracted towards. Because unfortunately in the money industry, not just trading, you can always have elements which might not be the greatest. I mean, we've had the likes of MTI, born in South Africa, being the largest global crypto kind of crash, let's call it that. But the other factor is that the regulator will put out guidelines, and the regulator will put out legislation or interpretation of legislation, and I think more onus falls on ourselves as the actual entities to follow by that, to do the ethical type of business, to market in a way that is not misleading to people, because all of this combines into what the regulator ultimately wants to achieve as a perfect sphere where everything works really well. Because quite frankly, I can assure you, through much contact with many regulators, no regulator likes to have a lot of people coming to them with many more complaints on a consistent increase, because that means, simply put, the legislation that's been drafted is not actually working, and there is no abide in an ethical manner by what is supposed to be done for the benefit of, our clients.
Correct. Very interesting. Since we have 6 minutes left, and I want to leave 5 for questions, let's jump to the last part of the discussion, which is trends. What kind of trends do each of you foresee for the near future, let's say till the end of the year, a little bit early into 2025, what do you see for the African region in general? Paul?
I see robotic trading, algorithmic trading becoming much more of a feature. As Alex alluded to earlier, it's something that's a hot topic at the moment. It's quite nice to see because ultimately what it does is it removes emotion from trading, which often is the thing that actually pulls a trader up. So I see algorithmic trading, robotic trading becoming more of a feature, and ultimately, the broker, by offering the prices, has to have a very stable environment in order for that to take place.
Thanks, Paul. Linton?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you, Paul. I do see a big uptake on the sort of algorithmic and robotic side of trading. I think a lot of that is also due to recent reports, etc., and interviews from the FSCA, one with MoneyWeb specifically, that comes to mind. And I think that the follow-through from that is that traders are going to have to be in a position where, if they don't physically want to trade for themselves, that they're probably going to have to rely on something that they can control themselves, whether or not they're actually placing the trades or whether the system's placing the trades on their behalf, and they are managing, the application of the algorithm. That remains to be seen. But I believe that there will be a big move in that direction because we have to move away from certain practices, especially in South Africa, mainly. Into Africa itself, Kenya and Nigeria, we might experience the same type of things. Other regions is still, very open to other practices that are currently running, like copy trading and MAMs and PAMs and things like that with unregulated guys. But I do think that, what Paul said is correct. I think that there'll be a big move in that direction because traders have to take control of their trading account.
Interesting. Alex?
Time is running low, so I'll be very brief. Your questions were very well placed, Andrea, because what you asked us is basically what's coming. Regulation is going to be more intense, stricter, and that's a good thing, as Danny said, because we want that. We want to separate the good from the bad apples and actors. Number one, that will give more confidence to the market. More people, it will stop being a taboo to be entering the financial markets. It's going to be something which is more legit with more regulation. Number two, education. People need to get educated, and unfortunately, some of the channels, as has been said before, are not the right channels. So, for example, HFM, we're going out to every single city in South Africa. We've been in 12 cities. We're going to go to another 70 cities of South Africa and small towns to meet with people, because sometimes online doesn't work and people trust an interpersonal relationship. So these are the big trends for us.
Thank you, Alex. Danny?
I'm going to second everyone here. More regulation. I think more oversight in terms of social trading / copy trading. And definitely way more educational program to be introduced. That's what the guys want, and I personally believe this is what's going to happen, especially in terms of the ODP.
Thank you. Amar?
So I'll keep it very brief. We're out of time, right, guys? Look, I think just growth. There's a lot of growth that's happening. I share a stage here with a lot of my peers that are global brands in Africa with a lot of insight, a lot of product into Africa. We're an African broker expanding quite largely globally. But for Africa, the growth exists. I think a lot of technology is born here. And we're seeing that starting to move again, synonymously with everything Paul said as well, a lot of algorithmic trading. But more importantly, now that we have CASP licensing in play, I think the client market is going to start understanding how derivative trading works in the crypto market as well, in a lot more of a ethically and regulated manner.
Thank you all. I'm going to open the floor for questions. I think we'll have time for one only. Any questions for the panelists? Now is your chance. There's one in the back.
Make it a good one.
Make it count.
Hello. You guys mentioned around accessibility and challenges up in Africa, and you mentioned mobile adoption and product offering, but you didn't mention anything around your marketing and communication plans. So how do you guys actually talk to the clients up in Africa? What medium are we talking? Social media? So are we talking Facebook? Are we talking WhatsApp? How are you guys communicating with your clients?
Those are trade secrets, buddy.
That's what I want to know.
He's asking for free advice, basically.
Yeah, I would jump on this one to start off with. I think one thing everybody forgot to mention is Africa is a very traditional market. So yeah, we can go via the social medias, we can go via the IM systems. I mean, I think COVID brought the world the best video speaking mediums, but Africa is still traditional. People. It's important to have people elements. When we go into a region, whether it's west, north, east, south of Africa, it's important that we have people on the ground because we work with money. And from a traditional trust perspective, of course, we are Africa's most trusted broker, but somebody wants to speak to somebody there. You have to exist there. It almost exists as a private banking model that's required across every single client that you've ever worked with. However, that sometimes is not completely feasible, which is where all the different digital mediums come into play.
Thank you, Omar. Danny?
Yeah, and just to follow on that one, I think when it comes down to Africa, you have to go local. So yes, you have to meet people, you have to go out there and put your brand out there and meet the trader to understand what are their needs and demands. And on top of that, Africa has to do a lot with social media. So if we are talking about marketing or marketing strategies and so on and so forth, I think it has to do a lot also with your social media strategy and digital presence. It plays a big part.
Can I combine the two?
Please.
Social media, yes, provides brand awareness. People know you. Then you have to go down to them and speak to them, and I hope this ages well, but there is no better technology than sitting in front, and there will never be, than sitting in front of someone and shaking their hand. And that's what we stand for, and that's what the future should be. Not just the past, but the future.
Thank you all. I think that from our side as the digital ones, definitely I would second what they have all been saying. We work in marketing with all of them and many more. And it is social media, big part. If I had to choose two channels from that, it would be Instagram and WhatsApp, to be very specific. And local as well, physical. Unfortunately, for anybody that is purely digital, you have to bridge that gap. You have to physically go and meet people like we are here today, which is one of the reasons that we organize so many events. So the next one will be in Australia, because it doesn't matter where you're from, a handshake is not replaced by anything, whatever you are and whatever you're from. Okay, so we have run out of time. If you want to catch them after the panel, stay there. Sorry, guys. And please, big round of applause for all of them. I think they have done great. Thank you.